Alright. Good, mic's still working. Oh, Worms the cough is still there. Been lesser lately, but obviously still there. Yeah, I got a new solid state drive. 8 terabytes. Because apparently my Steam library has grown to 1.5 terabytes, or sorry, 1.66 terabytes. And it was getting real, and I had my library split between a solid state and a hard disk drive, and because the solid state was also shared with Windows because it's my boot drive, there's only like 100 gigs I could really use for games, and the rest had to go on the hard disk. Now everything's on solid state. But what I only realized just as I booted this up, changing the install location removed all our mods. Okay. That happened. Oh, blindside. Alright, good. Self 2 is probably not fast enough, but well, let's see how fast CPR is. I think we just saved Cedric. No, I actually just left you with 1 HP. Oh, I was lucky. Alyssa has realized. Yeah, I don't think CPR activated there. By the way, I noticed the text said resist instant death. Yeah, I don't know if that... I don't know if CPR activated or not. Because if it did, that means it doesn't go away when it's activated, which means we're functionally immortal, apparently. Or it just was a very lucky hit after exactly one. Anywho, enjoy the original sprites, I guess. Contemplating whether to reinstall the mods like right now, and I'm not sure how I'm going to have to do. I'd have to remodify the regulation file. Then I have to find an yeah, no, that'd take an hour or two. No, probably closer to an hour. Look, modifying the sprites in this game is not cakewalk. It's not like there's a high risk of failure or anything, it's just you can only modify one file at a time, and sprites are not kept all in the same file. And so I have to go through and, you know, find each individual file for each individual sprite and change them one by one. And the software that we have for modifying those sprites only open one file at a time. So to go through the whole process of find the file, open it up, open it for modification, 2 separate steps, and find the modified sprite, load that in, and save modification, then save the file. Yeah, I have to save in 2 separate ways, and then I need to find and open the next file and repeat the process 4 times per character, because there's character creation, battle sprite, results sprite, and then the big status screen sprite. So it's rather tedious. I've gotten a bit used to doing it, but you know. Yeah, as far as load times go, whatever. Honestly, whatever. I say that because, interestingly enough, the load times on my hard disk aren't that different from the SSD. I know the SSD should be theoretically a lot faster, but I apparently just have a good hard disk. I think that comes from... yeah. Yeah, I am trying to wonder why the hard disk drive is that much better. I can only guess because of optimizations in the disk drive itself. And oddly enough, the connection type. So the hard disk that I've got is external. It's not connected directly to the motherboard. Well, it's not connected to the motherboard through the usual internal methods. It's actually connected through a USB port. Yeah, it's a USB plug-in thing. That's why it's external. You can just kind of unplug it from the USB and take it on the go. Except I don't do that because I just don't do that with it. I have it because it's 2 terabytes of storage space. Seemed like more than enough when I got it, like 8 years ago. And yeah, when I haven't needed new storage for 8 years, I'd say it was indeed a good investment. I mean, even then, it wasn't really that close to maxing out. I think it had like 500 gigabytes left on it before I decided to migrate all the Steam games off of it onto the new drive, and now there's like 1.2 terabytes free. So yeah, I don't think I'll need new storage for a long time. Well, I might need new game storage, honestly. Games are getting stupidly big. That aside, though, USB connection, while it is USB, I remember reading that it actually supports up to 3 gigabytes per second. Which is pretty fucking fast. The only real limiting factor is the hard disk itself, and I guess whatever other processing bottlenecks there are. And when I know of hard disk, I know of hard disk optimization is that the main reason hard disks, or rather, the main reason solid-state solid-state drives are faster than hard disk drives is because they don't have to physically move anything to seek for data. For solid-state, think of the whole thing as just one circuit, or basically as maybe one giant stick of RAM. It's just circuitry there. You're moving at the speed of electricity. Sure, there's load time. Sure, there's a maximum amount of read and write that you can do. Because electricity doesn't move at infinity times light speed. Fucking melt all the hardware if it did. But still, no observably moving physical parts. Hard disk, on the other hand, has little teeny tiny disks. You know, CDs. For those of you who remember what a CD is. And in fact, it has them stored in racks. You have a whole giant collection of little mini CDs inside there. And it stores data onto the disk, so it reads and writes from the disk, it burns data onto it, it reads from it. So there's... I don't remember exactly how many disk readers a hard or disk drive can have, but we'll just say one for now. Probably more though, honestly. Probably at least a couple. So you have disk readers up at one point, and the disks are wherever the hell they are. So to find the data, you need to get the disk reader to the disk. And that means either physically moving the hard disk to where the disk reader is, or physically moving the disk reader to where the disk is. It's the data you want. That physically moving component part is why hard disk drives are on average slower than solid state disk drives, because they have to seek for the data, they have to physically move to it. This is also where defragmentation comes in, and where really good... I'm gonna call it data organization, because I'm forgetting the exact term for it. It might just be defragmenting, honestly, all under one umbrella. But the deal is, at this point, software knows about the physical limitations of disks. That the reader and the disk have to travel a physical distance to meet so data can be read or written. So how it compensates for this is it tries to write all of the related data on the same disk. So when you install a game, it'll do its best to try to keep all of that data together. So that if you have to go on to a second, so that way you gotta look for something else, chances are it's on the same disk or it's on the disk right next door. It's down in seek times a hell of a lot like that. Why you should periodically also defragment your hard drive if you have one. Probably don't at this point. I think almost every drive is solid state, at least by default. Probably have to go out of your way to get a hard disk at this point. But the other factor with it is that hard disk drives will do a second thing optimization, is that they'll note, or I guess flag, to be more precise on the programming terminology, certain data as commonly accessed. So it'll know if you're always playing this game. It'll flag all the data for that game commonly accessed. And so what it will do is when the disk drive is like shuffling around data to make sure things are where they need to be so the disk reader can get to it, it'll make sure that game's data always towards the front. So since it's commonly accessed, it arranges it so that way it always has a shorter seek time, because it doesn't have to move as much. So because of this, what I've noticed with the hard disk drive, how good they are at this point, is that like the first time you boot up a game, it'll take a bit to load. In fact, if it's as large as current AAA games, maybe not. AAA games should be at least a little bit better optimized than that. I was thinking it's a heavily modified Elder Scrolls game, because I know Elder Scrolls is like 8 gigs, and one of my modded folders is like 60 gigabytes now, because there's just that many mods in there. That can take like up to 10 minutes on the first load in a while. If I haven't, because there's usually like months between times that I boot it up. And 10 minutes, that's just the first load. Afterwards, it's like seconds or at most a minute, I guess, for first loads, but normally as you're playing longer and longer, the load times just get shorter and shorter, Because the hard disk drive is starting to optimize, like, hey, we actually need all this data, so make sure it's all stayed up at the front, because we're going to need it soon, probably. Don't know for sure, but probably. And as a result, there's only, like, some seconds difference, I guess, in load times, which is not really enough for me to complain about, or even note. I'm like, yeah, no, if it's not multiplayer title, I don't really care if it's on a hard disk or solid state. Just the slightly longer load time doesn't really bother me. That also comes from the time that I still grew up at the time when things were read from physical discs. You know, 7th gen consoles, or 6th gen consoles too. It was really weird to call them 6th gen, but that's what they are. 7th gen was the Wii, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. And 7th gen, the term that got thrown around a lot, it was a really long console generation. It was a really long time before we got the next gen, with PS4 and Xbox One. But before that, we had the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and the GameCube. I guess that's 6th gen, but still, I grew up with GameCube and Nintendo 64. And I had PS2 for a while. We ended up, I guess, selling it at some point. Kinda regret that, because Star Wars Battlefront 2 was fucking amazing. But yeah, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, kind of when we started moving to digital, started moving to installing games, so reading them entirely from the disc, but, you know, I'm used to reading from the disc for data. So, I'm not that bothered by long load times. What I am bothered by is when you take a game that expected there to be long load times and put it on hardware that makes those load times near instant. That actually kind of irritates me, because that means they put effort into their loading screens. They put effort into whatever the in-between is where things are loading, because they assume or rather they knew you'd be there for a while, and now you're not there for a while, and it's like, come on, I was reading that. Oh god, we don't need any Leland. And they kind of switched over to... I'm not really sure how installing games from a disc works, because you still technically need the disc. So I'm not fully sure what the disc is really there for, other than just to tell the operating system, hey, this is the game we're playing, except all the data is actually installed in the internal memory, so you don't need to read the disk, you just need to check the disk for what title we're going at. Like, okay. That's my guess on what it does. Don't actually know. Maybe he's trying to split the load between the disk and the internal memory. You know what? Let's speed this up just a little bit. Yeah, solid state drive is probably going to be nice. Honestly, less so about it being solid state. Well, I guess for newer games, yeah, solid state's kind of required. They just fucking forgot about optimizations at this point. God. So yeah, I'm more so happy about having the extra 8 terabytes of storage space, because that should last me a fair while. I hope. It really seems like the average game size is starting to balloon again. The game sizes went from like a few megabytes to a gigabyte to 8 gigabytes, 60 gigabytes, and now they're like at 100 gigabytes, and it's like, please stop expanding. Stop giving me 4K textures that I'm not going to use. So if you look at... I was surprised that while migrating the Steam library. I was looking at all these indie titles that I have, and they're like less than a gigabyte. They're like hundreds of megabytes. Less than half of a gigabyte. And I know these games are going to be bigger and probably better polished than a lot of the fucking AAA shit I get, which are at least 60 gigabytes. The thing is, AAA has better marketing. You're gonna be more aware of them. There's gonna be that one game that's just like, yeah, I think I'll give this a go. Like Helldivers 2 right now, which I guess it's more of a AA space at this point. 100 gigabytes. I haven't bought it yet. I'm honestly not 100% sure if I will. Because the question on whether I'll buy it or not, because it looks fun. It doesn't look like it's horribly monetized either. I question, but from what I've read about it, and what I've seen about it, it's a game that's, if I don't have friends to play it with on the regular, not really worth it. Like, doing it with randos isn't gonna make for a fun time, is what it seems like. Oh yeah, they did. Oh shit, right, Bethesda did that. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Bethesda had a little controversy, and it remained only a little one, because at that point physical sales were strongly a minority. But we kind of collectively moved on to doing primarily digital downloads, not physical discs. So when people said, oh, I'll get the physical copy of Bethesda games, they just... the disc isn't even a disc, it's just a little cardboard cutout of a disc with a download code on it. Which, I mean, if this were back in the day of physical sales being popular, yeah, that wouldn't have flown. But, times are changing. How long did the install and migration process take? Because I had to leave my computer on all night to finish it, and like it finished installing everything a half hour before stream, so an hour ago. I'm trying to remember when exactly I started. Maybe 2100 last night, which would... I don't know, that's like 18-ish hours. I mean, I won't need to do this kind of fast migration again. At least I hope not. Well, there's actually still the perfectly legitimate digital editions, because those are... So far I've only migrated my Steam library over to the new SSD. I have not migrated all of my games. Because they're kind of spread around. I mean, I made folders for them, I designated the folders, just I didn't keep all the folders in one spot, because my original SSD is 500 gigabytes, limited space, I know by today's standards. So it's kind of spread across 2 original drives I've got. Yeah, 500 was definitely more than enough for the time. But what I wasn't anticipating is that the Windows operating system, I know it can be smaller, but it decided to take up 200 gigabytes, or basically half of my SSD for me. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I'll tell you over and over, don't get Windows at this point, just go to Linux. I'm assuming backed up again is your buffering. No, that might be because of the higher bitrate. So the thing is, as you'll remember, at the end of last stream I decided, hey, since I've been grinding for 2.5 hours, let's do something a bit more action-y for the last half hour. And I upped the bitrate for that. So now we're at 5K bitrate. Yeah, 5K. Yeah, I guess that could be one way they could do it. Anti-piracy has an interesting history. Alright, so the biggest bottleneck after I migrated things from the, migrating from the SSD to SSD was relatively quickly. There are only like a couple of games that I keep on the SSD because of just how fucking large they are. And I try to, keep a good amount of the SSD storage space actually free. And there's a hard disk drive, which, yeah, that took a bit. That goes transfer rate about 80 megabytes per second. That took a while. That took until night. And then I started to install the stuff that I had removed because I needed to make space, because fucking 90 gigabyte games apparently. Stuff like Doom, Doom 2016 is really big, as were the Shadow of Mordor. Those are surprisingly big games. And, yeah, because ISP, I was kind of bottlenecked by the ISP there at the 15 megabytes per second on the download speed. That took, yeah, that basically took like 12 hours. Over 12 hours, I guess, to install everything. About 53 games in total, and it was only like, at most a third of those were actually like of size. 2/3 of them were just like, at most 4 gigabytes. And of those, like, of the 4 gigabyte and under, half of them were like 500 megabytes or less. Again, indie titles, they're kind of the only place we have optimized games at this point. Oh yeah, I was surprised when I installed Shadow of War and it was like, what? It's that big? In fact, let me take a quick look at the size. Because of that memory management I just mentioned, of trying to kind of balance what's on the soft state drive and what's on the hard disk drive, and actually having storage for other things besides games, I have my scene library organized by size of game. I've shown you I have the other list for like what games I played and what haven't I, but when I look at the all, it's always organized by size on disk. It's 110 gigabytes. Shadow of War is the largest game installed. It's 109.63. After that's Doom 2016 at 70 gigabytes. Okay, and Shadow of Mordor is 42.67 gigabytes. Yeah. Yeah, no, they are some big-ass games. But yes, hearing that size, I think you understand why once I was done with the game, I had to uninstall it. But now that I have the new drive, I can, at least for a while, just keep everything installed, which will be helpful for replaying old games or starting new games. Because now you don't have the barrier of like, alright, I want to play this, and I have to install it. 8 hours later. Yeah, no, I did have fun with Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. And I can see the vestigial microtransactions that were in Shadow of War. Like, they aren't in there now. I know they ripped them out. But, like, I can still see the vestiges in there. Four days later. Excuse me. 4 days later. I also do have to wonder how these remakes of old GBA and DS games got so big. I think AOHD is pretty close to the original, because a gigabyte in size for these games sounds like what a DS cartridge could hold. I want to say the max those cartridges could hold was like 4 gigabytes, although that might be the 3DS cartridges. I don't remember what the max size for DS cartridges are. Like the Battle Network Legacy Collection, it's like a couple gigabytes. I think it's... I'm not going to alt-tab to the Steam library to check, so I'm just going off memory and say it was 3 gigs? Which... how? Really, how? Because I told you, I have on my Game Boy Advance all of the original Mega Man Battle Network games, and they are at the largest 8 megabytes. So we're talking like... what, 48 megabytes? Like 50 megabytes tops? We want to be generous, and somehow they made 3 gigabytes out of that? How? Ah, yes, Nintendo's blocks. Actually, they weren't the only one to do blocks, but they were the most prominent. I think it was Microsoft's Xbox that used megabytes, but I remember PlayStation and GameCube used blocks. And I think Nintendo... I don't know if Nintendo still uses blocks. I think they stopped when they got to the Switch. I think they just used the standardized storage measurement. Because block actually used to be standardized storage measurement. I think it was 512 megabytes. Something like that. It's like, it's bigger than a megabyte, but smaller than a gigabyte. That's what a block was. Yeah, I don't know if the Wii U used either. I think at the time I'm still kind of okay with not having gotten a Wii U, but I will say Xenoblade Chronicles X seems like it'd be right up my fucking alley, which makes me wish I had gotten a Wii U and that game, but at the same time, getting a console for one game is a little iffy. I say because the only reason I got a Switch is for Breath of the Wild. It wasn't until, like, at least half a year later that I got a second game for it. Still haven't played Tears of the Kingdom. Every time I bring up Breath of the Wild, I'm reminding myself that I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom yet. Technically, I have booted it up, but like I played for a half hour, and as I said last time, like, I want to play this on a big screen. And then I never set up that big screen. Eternal Copium. Yeah, I'm considering getting a perfectly legitimate digital edition of Xenoblade X, but at the same time, I don't know how that would really work out on PC. Or if there even is a Wii U interpreter, let's call them. Yeah, I do keep all of my perfectly legitimate digital edition games all in like the same spot. They're organized by console. It's just like, and then there's also other like itch.io games I've gotten, or like very small games. Small as in like less than a gigabyte in size, not small as in short. Like another Metroid 2 remake, AM2R. That's like in a separate folder on the SSD. So they're kind of scattered-ish. Well, I haven't migrated them yet. And they're also so small, I'm not sure I need to migrate them. I think I mentioned this a long time ago. But 131 Game Boy Advance games is just barely 1 gigabyte. And I've got 2 terabytes of storage on that drive, so it's like drop in the bucket. Yeah, it might run faster, but it doesn't really need to run faster. Yeah, and there's another issue. I also need to play God Hand at some point. So I have a perfectly legitimate digital edition of God Hand, as well as a PS2 interpreter. But I haven't unpacked either from the zip. So I haven't really tried setting them up. I hope I have that, because looking through my downloads folder for a while, I actually have a bunch of N64 games in there that I apparently haven't organized into a folder yet, and I hope that's there. I know I've heard nothing but good things about the first couple of Paper Mario games. In the later Paper Mario games, they went through the whole issue of over-streamlining it. Yes, it's interpretive gaming. You can think of it like interpretive dance. I get like what, 3K or 5K from this? 5K. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, they pulled a Bethesda. We just did the thing where we healed in front of the innkeeper. Haven't done that in a bit. Yeah, there's an indie game that seems to give off similar vibes called Bug Fables. I got that on sale, and as you can guess, it is unplayed, but now fully installed. That too is like under a gigabyte. Seems like it would be a fun game too. Well, again, after Etrian Odyssey, we're going to switch over to a different format of streaming so I can actually get through my Steam library. So at this point, I'm just kind of hoarding games, not really playing them. Like, oh, that looks interesting, I'll take that, and that, and that. And I'm like, I wonder when I'll play them. And the answer in the back of my mind that I dare not say out loud is never. At the same time, I know grinding for these dragons is going to take a hell of a long time. I'm not sure if I should be going for the dragons or 6 stratum first, to be honest. And again, level cap will never increase, so I guess they're equal difficulty. Question of, do I have the right party formation? The right strategy? Yeah, no, I still also find that valid. It's just, right now I don't want to grind off stream. Yeah, I'm not sure when I'd grind other than on stream at this point. Because I can't say I'm so enthusiastic about replaying this game that I want to spend so many hours during my actual week on it. But at the same time, I could dust off, quote unquote. I have actually kept it dust free. I still haven't used it in a while on my Steam Deck. But I'm also trying not to multitask while I'm engaging with my entertainment. So it's like, when the hell would I even grind? I'd have to focus fully on it, and yeah, right now I feel like if I ground off stream, it feels more like an obligation than I'm doing it because I want to. And because this is more of a hobby than an actual, you know, job for me, I'm not really obligated to make myself entertaining all the time.